head into the papers now, see what the headlines are in Nigeria. And I have with me in the studio a lawyer, public affairs analyst, Jide Ologun. And certainly we are not alone. My handbag is with me. Veronica.
Handbag indeed.
It's good to have you on this side.
Yeah.
Now, Jide, you're welcome too.
Welcome.
Good morning.
But I understand the traffic is terrible this morning.
Wonderful.
I wonder how you got to the office.
Yeah, we brought to fore the Boy Scout and Man O' War approach of crisis management.
Wow.
So, it was
Well, it's good to have you in. Let's start with Daily Trust this morning. Daily Trust says Nigerians reject immunity for Senate President, Speaker and others. Say it's self-serving. Proposal triggers calls for removal of immunity for President and governors. That is what Daily Trust has. And from there, let's go to the Leadership newspaper, which says court jails Olisa Metuh 7 years over 400 million naira fraud. Resumes trial of Fani Kayode Nenadi Usman over alleged 4.6 billion naira graft. That's what you see on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. My colleague Veronica will take on the rest now.
All right, and on the front page of the blueprint, I have 400 million naira fraud. Metuh joins Dariye, Nyame, Kalu in jail. Forfeits 375 million naira to federal government. Bags 7 years sentence. Kudos to Knox as counsel set for appeal. We are still probing Jonathan's campaign donations. EFCC. And we move to the Daily Times. Senate probes banks over remittance of tax revenues. Wants DMBs, CSCS agencies to collaborate on tax collection remittances. Says police VIO should clamp down on trucks not roadworthy. And finally, on the front page of the News Direct, Senate investigates deposit banks over remittance of tax revenues. Wants police VIO to clamp down on trucks not roadworthy to ply highways. Mike.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, I think that the story on the front page of the Daily Trust will interest my guest in the studio this morning and even Nigerians. The issue of the immunity clause has been on for so many years. In the last 20 years, this issue has come up for discussion so many times where Nigerians are kicking against it and have varying opinions when it comes to. Now, this came up again sometime when it was being considered and taking it further, whether the Senate President and leadership of the National Assembly should have immunity. Well, you are a lawyer, so talk to us about about the desirability. Why is there the push for the issue of immunity for the leadership of the National Assembly?
The immunity clause is protective, from prosecution. And if you look at Section 308 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, it protects the president, the vice president, and of course extended to the governor at the state level, which means you cannot prosecute them. And it's to shield them from unnecessary litigations that may distract them from delivering on the purpose of governance. But having said that, if they get involved in criminal activities, the EFCC can go in to investigate and warehouse the evidences and proceed to prosecute when they step out of office. And we have the case of the former governor of Ekiti State here, Ayodele Fayose, who even submitted, it was not the day he left office that they started investigation. They've had all this, and right now we have about 3 governors that have been jailed out of office. So if the National Assembly leadership is seeking immunity, the first question to ask is that, are you afraid of accountability? Because accountability is a core requirement in good governance. You see, so if you are immune while in office, you are not immune when out of office.
They are saying is for them to be able to concentrate on their duty without compromise.
I think that is a pedestrian excuse. Who is running after them? Why can't they concentrate? If the focus is good governance, there cannot be distraction. There cannot be distraction. And of course, even with the immunity, if you look at Section 15 of Section 5 of the Nigerian Constitution, it says the state must abolish corruption and abuse of office. So why are you in office? Why are you afraid of immunity? Who wants to sue you? They've been there. They have all the payments and
because
everything.
some have said that perhaps they are hiding, they have something to hide. That is why they are pushing for it.
If
Could
you
that
have
be the
something
case?
to hide, if you hide it while in office, you may not hide it while you are out of office. That's what we are saying. So the best bet is to be elevated beyond politicking and deliver to the people. You see, I mean, you will be challenged. Look at the United States of America. The president went through an impeachment process, and at the end of the day,
yes.
So under democracy, you are accountable to the people. The moment you don't want to be accountable, you are not even relevant there. So they should focus. It's not an excuse to tell us that because you don't have immunity, that is why you are not performing. You are not performing, you are not performing.
All right.
If you focus on the people, you deliver to your constituencies.
In this instance, there are some Nigerians who are even saying that the immunity for chief executives should even be removed as it is.
Yeah,
some
are driving that advocacy, but it may be dangerous in a country like Nigeria.
Okay.
You can see the number of cases that we had in court after the 2019 election. So you can imagine the crisis we have in Bayelsa State now, in Imo State. So when you allow anybody to jump on the executive to prosecute and stuff like that, it may be distractive. And recall also that even the vice president, when he was alleged to have spent some money by Chimi Frank, he said he was ready to step down from his immunity, and they said, no, you cannot step out of it. It's to protect that office.
Exactly. It's not about you.
Exactly.
It's about the office.
But the main point is that immunity, even those who enjoy it, is just for the time you are in office. When you step out of office, whatever you do, if they are criminal, the law of the land will come after you. And in Nigeria, I think sometimes they enjoy extended executive protection, because how many leaders really have been brought to justice? Look at South Korea, about 4 leaders have been jailed.
Brazil, the
exactly.
same thing.
So when we get to that point where the justice system is passionate about bringing people to justice, then I think
it even also reminds us of South Africa, where the former president has been going through. But it's okay. We have to leave you here now, Jide Ologun. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
God bless
Thank
Nigeria.
you.
Yes,
Thank you.
and my handbag. Veronica.
Thank you too.
Okay.
Let's quickly turn our attention to the newspaper review now, and to do that with me in the studio is a lawyer and public affairs analyst, Jide Ologun, and I have my colleague here as well, Mike Okwache. It's your turn to see that.
Well, it's good to be your guest on this side, really. It's nice.
All right, now let's head straight to the papers, and I begin with the Daily Trust. Nigerians reject immunity for Senate President, Speaker, others say it's self-serving. Proposal triggers calls for removal of immunity for President and governors. To the leadership newspaper now. Court jails Metuh 7 years over 400 million naira fraud. Resumes trial of Fani Kayode Nenadi Usman over alleged 4.6 billion naira graft. And you find same story on the front page of the blueprint. For 400 million naira fraud, Metuh joins Dariye, Nyame, Kalu in jail. Forfeits 375 million naira to federal government, bags a 7-year sentence. Kudos to Knox as counsel set for appeal. We are still probing Jonathan's campaign donations, EFCC. We'll be looking at that story shortly. And finally here, before I hand over to Mike, Daily Times. The Senate probes banks over remittance of tax revenues, wants DMB, CSCS agencies to collaborate on tax collection remittances, says police VIO should clamp down on trucks not roadworthy. Mike?
All right, from there, let's head to the News Direct now. And he says, Senate investigates deposit banks over remittance of tax revenues and wants police VIO to clamp down on trucks not roadworthy to ply highways. You find that on the front page of the News Direct. And away from there, the Nation newspaper is next, and he says reps under fire for bill on lawmakers' immunity. It will weaken anti-graft war, says Sage. Falano, Ozekome, others lash lawmakers. Certainly reactions from a lot of Nigerians on this. From there, let's go to the Sun. The Daily Sun newspaper is the last one we'll see, certainly for this time, and he's focusing on insurgency. And he says Senate orders military back to Sambisa. Catholic bishops to hold nationwide protest on Sunday. These are the headlines you see on the front page of the Daily Sun. Veronica.
All right, before we head to look at the story on the front page of the Blueprint as well as the Leadership newspaper, we'll quickly take updates on the traffic situation across major roads in Lagos. For motorists plying the ever-busy Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, particularly, there is a harrowing gridlock. The whole stretch of the highway out of Lagos is grounded, and this is affecting other adjoining routes. The traffic was caused by a crash involving a burning tanker conveying petroleum products on the Long Bridge on the outward section of the expressway. Now, the Federal Road Safety Corps is advising those traveling outside Lagos today to use the Victoria Island by Aja to Ijebu-Ode route. All right, talking about alternative routes for road users there, and everyone now has to plan out their time.
It's certainly going to be better for those who are traveling towards Benin to the east and you know, to the north central to go through Ijebu-Ode, the Imota Ijebu-Ode road, and then the bust out at the other Benin or Expressway. It's better than taking this route right now.
For those who understand, you know, the road network,
navigation,
they'll find it very, very easy. All right, let's come back to the front page of the Blueprint as well as Leadership, talking about the judgment, the court jailing Olisa Metuh for 7 years over 400 million naira fraud. There's been so many reactions to this, barrister, and some have, you know, commented and given kudos to those, you know, the judgment, while others have criticized it, especially how long it took to get to this point. Some have said that they would have been surprised if something else, if the judgment came out differently. But for you, what do you make of this judgment? Would you say justice has been done to this case?
Yeah, it can be said by the decision that justice has been done, because the whole essence of prosecution is to come to a conclusion. Because under Section 36 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, the accused is presumed innocent until the prosecutor adduces enough evidences and proof. And it's been on for about 4 years now, and we've come to a conclusion. So that means there has been
Can we really say that we have come to a conclusion, seeing that
yes, but he can appeal.
Is pushing for an appeal? Yeah.
He can appeal, but at this first level, we've come to a conclusion, and the issues involved, it's about 400 million naira that he collected allegedly then, which has now been established from the Office of the National Security Advisor, and the fact that he did a transaction of about $2 million without passing through the banking institution, and he's been asked also to pay about 375 million naira to the federal government and Destra company, one of the companies that you know he was running, to pay about 25 million to the federal government, and that the country also should be wound down. So here we are, you know, running through the value chain of criminal justice system, but he may appeal to a higher court. But as it is now, I think the fight against corruption, for those who applaud the fight, there's a time of applause now. But some may quickly come out to say that this is directed at opposition. And the ripple effect of this is that perhaps all those who are connected to that Dasuki gate should not be sleeping with their two eyes closed.
All right.
Because what scenarios do you see going forward? Although when it comes to legal issues, you can never preempt what the courts are going to come up with and how cases are going to turn out. But when it comes to the fight against corruption, a lot of people have said that, well, this is the first time we're having about 3 former governors in jail. And as it is, but it took so many years to come
to get to this point.
Yeah, so when we look at, okay, justice has been done, but at what cost and all of that, and how long is it taking?
Yeah, it's because, like I said, when you talk about the value chain, you talk about thorough investigation, diligent prosecution, and a committed judiciary. Because, for example, we have cases where someone is accused of stealing a telephone. That is what, about 45,000 naira. And within 3 months, the case is concluded. don't also rule out the possibility of influence. These are high-profile personalities. And the government made a promise towards 2015 election to shift the burden of proof from the prosecutor to the accused. If that had been done, it may be easier, faster. But right now, the prosecutor must prove that case beyond all reasonable doubt. And what do you find? Maybe the prosecutor doesn't come to court, adjournments and things like that. So we need to ensure that we are committed to fighting corruption. So it can really work.
All right. And the government has restated its commitment to doing that. Thank you, Barrister Jide Ologun, for speaking with us. And thank you, Mike, as well.
Thank you.
You're watching TVC Breakfast, and we're streaming live on YouTube. You can connect with us on Twitter using the hashtag TVC Breakfast. Still to come on the show. Well,
paper review now. We have in the studio Jide Ologun, a lawyer and a public affairs analyst, to give us understanding of some of the headlines on the papers. And I still have Veronica, my colleague, also sitting at the other side.
Yes, good to be on this side.
Exactly. Okay. Daily Trust is where we start from this morning, and it says Nigerians reject immunity for Senate President Speaker. Others say it's self-serving, and proposal triggers calls for removal of immunity for president and governors. We have that on the Daily Trust. And from there, let's go to the leadership newspaper. Court jails Olisa Metuh 7 years over 400 million naira fraud. It resumes trial of Fani Kayode Nenadi Usman over alleged 4.6 billion naira graft. We have all that on the front page of the leadership newspaper. Vanguard is next and is focusing on insecurity. It says gunmen go on rampage nationwide. A Delta community attacked, man killed, wife abducted, daughter injured. Gang sacks Benue community as cult war claims pharmacist and 4 others. Gunmen kidnap another victim of at Onitsha Olona, demand 15 million naira ransom. Cultists invade Delta police formation, 7 arrested. IGP disbands zonal interventions squad in Ogun over footballers killing. We won't tolerate killings from the police. That's Speaker of the House, Femi Gbajabiamila, saying that. We have all that on the front page of the Vanguard, and I know that this will interest my guests this morning. Veronica.
All right, so we'll move to the Nation newspaper, where reps are under fire for bill on lawmakers' immunity. They're saying that it will weaken anti-graft war. Issa Sage speaking there. Falana Ozekoma, others lash lawmakers. And then we'll move to the front page of the blueprint. For 400 million naira fraud, Metuh joins Dariye, Nyame, Kalu in jail, forfeits 375 million naira to federal government, bags 7 years sentence. Kudos Knox's counsel set for appeal. We are still probing Jonathan's campaign donations, EFCC. And to the front page of the Daily Times, Senate probes banks over remittance of tax revenues, wants DMB's CSCS agencies to collaborate on tax collection remittances, says police VIO should clamp down on trucks not roadworthy. And finally, on the front page of the News Direct, Senate investigates deposit banks over remittance of tax revenues, wants police VIO to clamp down on trucks not roadworthy to ply highways.
All right, let's see the this topic on the front page of the Vanguard will interest you and even Nigerians, especially when it comes to issue of security. Everyone would say without security, there can't even be development, there can't even be anything if people are not secure. Now, array of the way Vanguard puts it here tells you some of the challenges from different parts of the country. That's the ones that I mentioned here. There was a headline earlier this morning on one of the papers that said that the reps orders the military back into Sambisa. Now, it tells you that all over, from terrorism to banditry to kidnapping to armed robbery to all sorts, security still remains a big challenge. Are we moving forward, or we're stagnant, or we're moving backwards? What's your take on this?
Yeah, to answer your question specifically, I believe we are moving backwards because security is the foundation of prosperity and development, and in the absence of that, it's a failure scenario. If you look at Section 14 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, it says that security and the welfare of the people shall be the primary purpose of government. So if that primary purpose is defeated, then there is a huge gap. And do you know also that the Sambisa forest was gazetted by the colonial masters in 1958 as a tourist reserve. It generates revenue. And we regazetted it in 1977. Now it has been turned to a battlefield. Do you also know that when the government claimed to have taken over Sambisa Forest, the Chief of Army Staff, Buratai, said that they were going to set up training centers in Sambisa Forest. In fact, he even said that the Army Small Arms Championship of 2017 was going to take place there. So here we are just going around the circles. And this Boko Haram campaign has claimed over 27,000 lives, displaced about 3 million. I think we could have spent about 4.7 trillion naira on it. And you can see the whole country getting engulfed by insecurity, banditry, different kinds of crime, pushing us further into poverty.
So do you think that a return to the Sambisa forest is where to begin to address these issues?
You see, when you have officers that have failed in 5 years to secure the country, returning to the Sambisa forest, what do you expect? The National Assembly started by asking that the service chiefs should be replaced. But the presidency is comfortable with the service chiefs. So, and in HR, what you are saying is that you are comfortable with the results being delivered. But in business, there's what we call returns on investment. If I invest 4.7 trillion naira in a project, and all I have on the table is a report of failure, and I continue in that project, should I be considered a wise or foolish person?
All right.
And this is a national issue.
Okay.
It's debranding us when you come to public relations. Look at how US is treating Nigeria now. We are like a terrorist nation. Are we even not one?
Well, in fact,
so when you look at all this,
in fact, when you use the word is debranding, it really captures it, because there are lots of investors who would want to go to Nigeria. And then when they hear, because the news outside of Nigeria about security is even worse than what we see here. But we have to leave it here now, Jide. We must thank you so much for your time this morning on the program.
God bless Nigeria.
Yeah. Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you, Mike.
All right.